Hey there, deep divers. Welcome back to the show. And hey, before we dive in, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an episode. All right. Are you ready to unearth some fascinating insights today? We're venturing into the heartland of India. It's agriculture. Whether you're a UPSC aspirant gearing up for GS3, a student brushing up on your economics, or just someone who enjoys a good plate of food, this deep dive is for you.
That's right, because understanding Indian agriculture is like unlocking a secret code to India's past, present, and future. It's not just about crops and livestock, it's about the lives and livelihoods of nearly half of India's population.
It's mind-boggling when you think about it. Almost half of India's workforce depends directly or indirectly on agriculture. It's a system unlike any other, and our sources today really highlight that. We're going to journey through different types of agriculture practiced around the world, from nomadic herding to massive plantations, before zeroing in on what makes Indian agriculture so unique.
It's like piecing together a global puzzle of farming practices, each shaped by its own environment, culture, and history.
Exactly. So let's start with this global perspective. Our sources mention nomadic herding, where communities literally move with their livestock, constantly searching for grazing lands. Then there's commercial livestock rearing. Think vast ranches packed with cattle, primarily for meat or dairy production. Shifting cultivation, also known as slash and burn. It's another fascinating practice, though it's often criticized for its environmental impact.
And we can't forget intensive subsistence agriculture, where farmers cultivate small plots of land to feed their families, often relying on manual labor and traditional methods. This type of agriculture is still prevalent in many parts of the world, including India.
It's amazing how diverse these systems are. We also have Mediterranean agriculture, with its focus on crops like olives, grapes, and citrus fruits, all perfectly adapted to the region's climate. And of course, there are plantations, those sprawling estates producing cash crops like tea, coffee, and rubber, which often have complex social and economic implications.
What's fascinating is that Indian agriculture draws elements from many of these global systems, blending them into a tapestry that's both diverse and deeply rooted in tradition.
Okay, so let's shift our focus to India. One of the first things that jumped out from our sources is the sheer scale. A staggering 49% of Indians rely on agriculture in some way. That's a huge chunk of the population.
It's a stark reminder of how vital the sector is to India's economy and social fabric.
And here's where it gets even more interesting. Our sources highlight that over 80% of India's water resources are used for irrigation. That's a massive amount of water dedicated to keeping crops alive. But here's the catch. 80% of farmers in India own less than 2 hectares of land. We're talking tiny plots, folks.
These figures reveal a fundamental truth about Indian agriculture. It's a delicate dance between a vast population, limited land resources, and a dependence on the monsoon for water. And speaking of global connections, let's step into the world of plantations. Our sources paint a vivid picture of these sprawling estates, particularly those cultivating tea and coffee.
Yes, plantations. I'm already picturing those lush green hillsides covered in rows of tea bushes, or the aroma of freshly roasted coffee beans. Our sources talk about how tea, originally from China, found its home in the hills of Assam and the Nilgiris, becoming an integral part of Indian culture and the economy. But I'm curious, how are Indian tea exports faring in today's competitive global market?
It's an interesting question. While India remains a major tea producer, it faces stiff competition from countries like Kenya and Sri Lanka, who've upped their game in terms of quality and marketing. This highlights how Indian agriculture needs to constantly innovate and adapt to maintain its edge.
Absolutely. And what about coffee? I know India is renowned for its Arabica coffee, especially from the highlands of Karnataka. But I'm also curious about the social and economic impacts of these plantations. Are they providing sustainable livelihoods for the workers?
That's a critical question to consider. Plantations, with their history of labor-intensive practices, often raise concerns about fair wages, working conditions, and the overall well-being of local communities. While they contribute significantly to the economy, it's crucial to ensure that this prosperity is shared equitably.
It's a reminder that progress needs to be inclusive.
No.
While we've been admiring the scale and diversity of Indian agriculture, our sources don't shy away from the challenges that this sector faces, and some of them are pretty significant.
That's right. Indian agriculture is at a crossroads, facing a multitude of hurdles that threaten its sustainability and the livelihoods of millions.
One of the biggest, and perhaps the most daunting, is climate change. Our sources paint a stark picture of how erratic monsoons, rising temperatures, and extreme weather events are wreaking havoc on crop yields. pushing farmers into distress.
Climate change is no longer a distant threat. It's a present reality for Indian farmers. And it's forcing us to rethink how we approach agriculture, moving towards more resilient and climate-smart practices.
And what exactly does climate-smart agriculture entail?
It's about adopting practices that not only adapt to these changing climatic conditions, but also help mitigate the impacts of climate change. This could include things like zero-tillage farming, which conserves soil moisture, crop diversification to reduce risk, and water-efficient irrigation techniques.
Sounds like a holistic approach, working with nature rather than against it.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that sustainable agriculture is not just about increasing yields. It's about building resilience, conserving resources, and ensuring the long-term health of our ecosystems.
And beyond climate change, what other challenges are highlighted in our sources?
Well, another pressing issue is soil degradation. Decades of intensive agriculture, with its reliance on chemical fertilizers and pesticides, have taken a toll on soil health, depleting nutrients and affecting fertility.
That's worrying. What's the solution? Is organic farming the answer?
Organic farming certainly offers potential solutions, promoting soil health and biodiversity. But it also comes with its own set of challenges, particularly for small farmers who need to maximize yields and may not have access to the resources and knowledge required for successful organic practices.
It sounds like a complex equation, balancing yield,
Yeah.
sustainability,
Yeah.
and the needs of farmers.
Exactly. There's no one-size-fits-all solution. It requires a nuanced approach, tailored to specific contexts and taking into account the social, economic, and environmental factors at play.
Now, speaking of complex equations,
Yeah.
let's not forget about the issue of fragmented land holdings, something we touched upon earlier. With 80% of farmers owning less than 2 hectares, how can they compete, adopt modern technology,
Yeah.
or achieve economies of scale?
It's a significant hurdle. Farming on tiny plots limits productivity and makes it difficult to implement modern agricultural practices. This is where innovative solutions like cooperative farming come into play.
Cooperative farming, can you explain how that works?
It's a model where farmers pool their resources, land, labor, and even capital to form a collective unit. This allows them to overcome the limitations of small holdings, access better technology, negotiate better prices for inputs and outputs, and even share knowledge and expertise.
It sounds like a win-win for everyone involved.
It has the potential to be, but it also requires strong community ties, trust, and effective management to be truly successful.
And finally, there's the challenge of market volatility, a constant source of anxiety for farmers who are often at the mercy of fluctuating prices. Our sources point to the lack of stable incomes, limited access to markets, and inadequate storage infrastructure, all contributing to the vulnerability of farmers.
This is where government policies and initiatives come into play. One approach is the concept of integrated farming systems, which encourages farmers to diversify their income sources by combining crops, livestock, and even aquaculture.
Integrated farming sounds fascinating. How does that work in practice?
Imagine a farmer who not only grows crops but also rears poultry or fish. The waste from livestock can be used as fertilizer for crops, while crop residues can be used as fodder for animals. It's a closed-loop system that reduces waste, improves resource utilization, and provides multiple income streams, making farmers more resilient to market shocks.
It's like creating a mini ecosystem on the farm now. Beyond these farm-level solutions, what are some of the larger initiatives being undertaken to address the challenges facing Indian agriculture?
Our sources highlight several promising initiatives aimed at transforming Indian agriculture, each tackling a different piece of the puzzle. One such initiative is the National Watershed Project, which focuses on rejuvenating water-stressed regions through soil and water conservation measures, afforestation, and community participation.
It's great to see a focus on water conservation, especially with the growing water scarcity in many parts of India. What other large-scale projects are being implemented?
Another crucial program is the Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana, PMKSY, a national mission aimed at bringing water to every field, promoting efficient irrigation techniques, and reducing water wastage. It's a massive undertaking, but one that's essential for ensuring the future of Indian agriculture.
These initiatives sound ambitious, but they're clearly much needed. Now, our sources also mention something called the Evergreen Revolution. What exactly does that entail?
The Evergreen Revolution can be seen as a paradigm shift, moving beyond the yield-centric focus of the Green Revolution towards a more holistic and sustainable approach to agriculture.
So it's not just about producing more food, but about producing it better in a way that's environmentally, socially, and economically sustainable.
Exactly. It's about embracing technologies like precision agriculture, which uses data and sensors to optimize resource use and increase efficiency. It's about empowering women in agriculture, recognizing their vital role and providing them with the resources and opportunities they deserve. And it's about promoting sustainable practices that protect our natural resources for future generations.
It sounds like a vision for a truly transformative future for Indian agriculture. But what about the role of technology? Our sources mention genetically modified GM crops, which always seem to spark a lot of debate.
GM crops are a powerful tool with the potential to increase yields, improve pest resistance, and even enhance nutritional content. But they also raise concerns about biodiversity, farmer control over seeds, and potential long-term environmental impacts. It's a complex issue with no easy answers.
It sounds like a case where careful consideration and evidence-based decision-making are crucial.
Absolutely. And it highlights the need for open and transparent dialogue involving scientists, policymakers, farmers, and consumers to ensure that technology is used responsibly and for the benefit of all.
You know, as we've been exploring all these challenges and solutions, it strikes me that we haven't really touched upon the financial side of things. I mean, how do farmers actually get the resources they need to implement these innovations, deal with risks, and ultimately make a living? Our sources actually delved into the complex world of agricultural finance in India.
It's a crucial aspect, often overlooked. Access to finance is the lifeblood of any sector. And for agriculture, it's particularly vital. In India, you have a mix of both formal and informal sources of credit. You have institutional lenders like banks and cooperatives, which offer various loan schemes specifically designed for farmers. And then you have the informal sector, which often includes moneylenders who may provide quick access to cash, but often at exorbitant interest rates.
It sounds like a mixed bag, with both opportunities and potential pitfalls. What are some of the key issues that farmers face when it comes to accessing credit?
One of the biggest hurdles, particularly for small and marginal farmers, is the lack of collateral. Banks often require land or other assets as security for loans, which many small farmers simply don't have. There's also the issue of bureaucratic red tape. Navigating the complex paperwork and procedures involved in securing a loan can be daunting, especially for farmers who may have limited literacy or access to information.
There. It's not just about the availability of credit, but also the accessibility and the terms of those loans. Our sources actually list several government schemes that aim to address these challenges. Can you shed some light on those?
Absolutely. One of the most well-known is the Kisan Credit Card Scheme, which provides timely and adequate credit to farmers for their short-term credit needs. This can cover things like purchasing seeds, fertilizers, and even meeting day-to-day expenses. Then you have specific loan facilities targeted at investments in irrigation, mechanization, and post-harvest management. These loans help farmers adopt modern technologies and practices, ultimately boosting productivity and incomes.
It's encouraging to see that there are systems in place to support farmers. But even with the funds, getting those crops to market is another challenge.
You're absolutely right. Agricultural marketing is a whole other ballgame, involving a complex web of intermediaries, transportation networks, storage facilities, and price fluctuations.
And I imagine the involvement of middlemen doesn't always work in favor of the farmers.
That's often the case. The lack of transparency and the long chain of intermediaries can eat into farmers' profits. Farmers may be forced to sell their produce at low prices, while consumers end up paying much higher prices at the retail level. It's a system that needs reform.
So what's being done to address these marketing challenges?
Our sources mention the Agricultural Produce Market Committee, APMC Act, which was intended to regulate agricultural markets and protect farmers from exploitation. However, there's been much debate about its effectiveness, with some arguing that it creates too much bureaucracy and restricts competition. There have been calls for reforms to make these markets more efficient and farmer-friendly.
It's definitely a complex issue with no easy solutions, but I do remember seeing something about ENM. What's that all about?
ENM is a game changer. It stands for the National Agriculture Market, and it's an online trading platform that aims to connect farmers directly with buyers across the country. It's essentially creating a unified national market for agricultural produce, bypassing the traditional mandi system and reducing the role of middlemen.
It sounds like it has the potential to revolutionize agricultural marketing in India.
It certainly does. By promoting transparency, reducing transaction costs, and providing farmers with access to a wider market. ENM empowers farmers to get better prices for their produce. It's still in its early stages, but it's a promising step in the right direction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can't talk about Indian agriculture without mentioning the minimum support price, or MSP. It's a policy that's been debated for years, but it plays a crucial role in ensuring a safety net for farmers.
That's right. The MSP is a guaranteed price set by the government for certain essential crops, like rice and wheat. It assures farmers that they'll receive a minimum price for their produce, protecting them from sharp price drops and providing a degree of income stability.
But it also has its critics.
Of course. One of the main concerns is that the MSP can distort cropping patterns. Farmers may be incentivized to focus on MSP crops even if they're not suitable for their region, or if there's an oversupply in the market. This can lead to issues like water depletion, as farmers may opt for water-intensive crops like rice, even in water-scarce areas.
It's another example of how well-intentioned policies can sometimes have unintended consequences. Speaking of risks, what about crop insurance? It seems like a no-brainer in a country so vulnerable to natural disasters.
You're absolutely right. Crop insurance is essential for mitigating the risks that farmers face, protecting them from financial ruin in the event of droughts, floods, pest attacks, or other unforeseen events.
And I believe India has a specific scheme for this. Right.
Yes. The Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana, or PMFBY, was launched to provide comprehensive crop insurance to farmers across the country. It aims to provide financial support to farmers in case of crop failure, helping them to recover and invest in the next season.
It's good to see that there are mechanisms in place to address these risks. Throughout this deep dive, one theme has really stood out to me: the crucial role that women play in Indian agriculture.
It's a fact that's often overlooked. Women are the backbone of Indian agriculture. They're involved in every stage, from sowing and weeding to harvesting, processing, and even marketing. Yet they often face significant challenges.
Absolutely. Our sources highlight the lack of access to land ownership, limited access to credit and resources, and even social and cultural barriers that prevent women from fully participating in the sector.
It's a matter of equity and empowerment. Recognizing and supporting women's contributions is not only the right thing to do, it's also essential for the growth and sustainability of Indian agriculture.
Our sources mention some initiatives aimed at empowering women farmers. Can you tell us more about those?
One noteworthy program is the Mahila Kisan Sashaktikarn Pariyojana, or MKSP, which focuses on capacity building, providing training and resources to women farmers, and enhancing their decision-making power. It's about enabling women to take charge of their livelihoods and contribute to their communities.
It's inspiring to see these efforts to create a more inclusive and equitable agricultural sector.
It's a journey, and there's still a long way to go, but recognizing the vital role of women and addressing the challenges they face is crucial for the future of Indian agriculture.
Wow, what an incredible deep dive. We've journeyed through the vast landscapes of Indian agriculture, from traditional farming practices to modern innovations, from the challenges of climate change to the complexities of agricultural finance, and the crucial role of women, I have to say. I've gained a whole new appreciation for the complexities and importance of this sector.
It's been a fascinating exploration. Indian agriculture is a microcosm of India itself, reflecting its diversity, its challenges, and its incredible resilience.
To all our deep divers out there, we hope you found this exploration as insightful as we did. It's a reminder that understanding Indian agriculture is about understanding the heart and soul of India. And remember, hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and ring that notification bell so you don't miss our future deep dives. Until next time, keep those brains curious.